Roulette. This is the first going out live over the internet. So, here we go. Just gonna try to find a paper. I'm gonna review it, give you my feedback. Let's see. This is the only new one today. I looked at all this stuff yesterday. Between atomism and superatomism. I don't want to review a philosophical logic paper. That'll get a little too far into the weeds, probably. Frankly, after the 20-page, hour and a half marathon that it was yesterday, I'm going to try to find something. You know what? Let's go to analysis and just see what we can do there. Hope everyone is doing well in this COVID-19 haze that we exist in at the moment. Let's see. Recent work on pain. Lots of pain. Finley's methodology. Synthetic, not analytic. Inner speech, new voices. Classless. Medical nihilism. What? That could be fun. Existential thesis that life is without objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value. Medical nihilism is the radical, skeptical, indeed cynicism about the objectivity, purpose, or value of medical interventions. Let's see. Oh, there's no direct download. Oh, and it's a review. Okay. No worries. Moving on. Probabilistic knowledge and action. Those aren't... I can't handle probabilistic knowledge. Consequentialism and infinite worlds. I do not feel like infinite worlds right now. Let's see. Vague objects and vague identity. New. Grounding, grounds, and plural logic. Those are fun, but not right now. A lot of grounding stuff. Previous issue? Yeah. Going the wrong way here. Chancy modus ponens? I don't think so. What is this? This is a reading Wittgenstein with Anscombe, going on to ethics by Core Diamond. So that's probably a review. Best and most perfect virtue? I don't think so. Amodal completion of knowledge. Epistemology of folk epistemology. Richard F. Kitchener. Let's see if we got this one. Nope, we don't have a copy of this. No, there's a critical notice anyway. Bah. Phenomenal coherence. Let's see what we got here. No access. Interesting. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at... Copy this. it's not there. We don't have access to that. That's so sad. So sad. Alright, that's too bad. I wish I could have done that, but I have no access here. Why don't people upload their files to fill papers or just make them available? The principle of sufficient reason. Let's see if we got this one. Oh, nope. Let's take a look real fast. Yeah, I knew Kris McDaniel might upload this. Here we go. Okay, let's download this quick. Alright, here we go. So, principle, sufficient reason, and necessitarianism. Kris McDaniel, out of Syracuse. Introduction. Peter van Inwagen, 1983, presented a powerful argument against the principle of sufficient reason, which I henceforth abbreviate as PSR. Also Bennett, and I will elide the differences between them in what follows. For decades, the consensus was that this argument successfully refuted PSR. However, now growing consensus holds that van Inwagen's argument is fatally flawed, at least when sufficient reason is understood in terms of ground. For on this understanding, an ineliminable premise of van Inwagen's argument is demonstrably false and cannot be repaired. I will argue that this growing consensus is mistaken, and that a powerful argument relevantly similar to van Inwagen's should still concern us, even when we understand sufficient reason in terms of ground. Here is the plan for the paper. In part 2, I will briefly state a version of van Inwagen's argument. In 3, I briefly discuss the recent criticism of it, van Inwagen, dagnabbit, recent criticism, ignore the of van Inwagen's argument, and then formulate an updated version of it that is more plausible than its predecessor, but which avoids the recent criticism. PVI versus principle of sufficient reason. Well, what's PVI? We'll provisionally understand principle of sufficient reason as the view that any contingent truth has a sufficient reason. Alright, so a contingent truth, what is that? And a sufficient reason, I'm sure we'll get to these things. We'll revise our understanding of PSR in section 3. We'll also provisionally say that P is a sufficient reason for Q only if P entails Q and P explains why Q is true. What does explain why Q is true mean? We'll find out. I will say little about what it is for one truth to explain another. Shucks. Save that if P and Q are contingent, then if P explains Q, Q does not also explain P. Alright, so it's one direction, not both. Here's a reasonably compact statement of van Inwagen's argument against PSR. Assume that there is at least one contingent truth. Okay. Call the conjunction of all contingent truths C. So C could just be one thing or a bunch of truths that you're conjoining. C is contingent since any true conjunction with at least one C is contingent since any true conjunction with at least one contingent conjunct is itself contingent. So that means if you've got all these like necessary truths, but like one of them happens to be like, well, it's sunny today, then the conjunction of all the things plus it's sunny, which it actually is not, it's kind of cloudy today, makes the whole thing contingent, which basically makes sense. It's like one drop of contingency makes everything contingent. I should talk about that sometime. So C has sufficient reason, call it R. R is either contingent or necessary. If R is contingent, then R is a conjunct of C. But a contingent conjunct of a conjunction cannot explain that conjunction. If R is necessary, then C is necessary since sufficient reason tells what they explain. Wait, so the reason is either contingent or necessary. If R is contingent, so it's a contingent reason, then R is a conjunct of C. Oh, conjunct of all contingent truths, I'm sorry. Call the conjunction of all... I don't even know if you can really conjoin all contingent truths. I don't know if that even makes any sense. But okay, so I thought there was one contingent truth. But yeah, I was thinking in terms of one. All contingent truths C. C is contingent, blah, blah, blah. So C is sufficient reason, call it R. R is either contingent or necessary. So if R was already in there, then it's already in there. But a contingent, then it can't explain itself. Okay, if R is necessary, then C is necessary since sufficient reason entails what they explain. Yeah, so if it just follows necessarily, then it was not actually a contingent thing because R was necessary and C followed from it. One can derive a formal contradiction from what was stated in the previous paragraph. Something has to go. Van Inwagen rejects PSR and suggests that we do the same. Okay, let's see what the complaints are then. Yeah, see this right here. Let's a little highlighting. Call the conjunction of all contingent truths C. You see, that's a really interesting sort of thing to do. That's every truth everywhere. I mean, who knows how many times you can slice truths. So we've got maybe infinite things. I mean, maybe you can diagonalize on contingent truths. I'd expect that you would. So that would mean you've got an infinite sort of set of contingent truths that are conjoined, and maybe you could continue to diagonalize and get even more truths out of those other contingent truths. So I understand where they're going, but it's a very, very sort of I don't know what the scope of all is right there. The Groundhog's response and PSR's revenge. Dun dun dun. Perhaps Van Inwagen has incorrectly formulated the principle of sufficient reason. Perhaps instead of appealing to an underspecified notion of explanation, we should appeal to a supposedly clearer notion of ground. Here's a first pass restatement of the principle of sufficient reason. Every contingent truth has a full ground. What's full? We don't know yet. And a parallel version of Van Inwagen's argument could be stated in terms of ground. For what is the ground of the conjunction of all contingent truths? Oh yeah, by the way, you were listening to Hours Sam Plus in the background here. However, this parallel version of Van Inwagen's argument can be rejected for principled reasons. It is widely accepted that a plurality of facts can ground a single fact, and more specifically, that a conjunction is collectively grounded in its conjuncts. For example, the fact that the sky is blue and the grass is green is grounded collectively in the fact that the sky is blue and the fact that the grass is green. Okay, so we're just throwing fact in front of stuff, and that somehow grounds things. Given this, the conjunction of contingent truths has a full ground, namely its contingent conjuncts taken collectively. What's the footnote on this? Alternative point that if we were the conjunction of contingent has itself is a conjunct, we should say that the full ground of this conjunct is every other contingent truth by itself. Yeah, the self-referentiality here is going to get you into trouble. Good job, anonymous referee. The parallel version of Van Inwagen's argument fails. Okay. Don't get too relaxed. There's a successor to Van Inwagen's argument that avoids this response. The groundhog claimed that a plurality of grounds can ground a single fact, but arguably the full general grounding relation can take pluralities in both slots, that is, many facts can collectively ground many facts collectively. Okay, so you've got many-to-many relation, which does sound reasonable. The grounding is a plural-to-plural relation that is defended by Dasgupta and further explored by Litland. I will assume that this is the case in what follows. There is some historical precedent for considering what grounds a plurality of truths. For example, Leibniz demands a sufficient reason for a series of things, and elsewhere Leibniz demands a sufficient reason for contingent truths and tells us that this sufficient reason must be outside the sequence or series of this multiple of contingencies. Yes, Leibniz was on top of his stuff. There is little reason to think that a series of things is itself a thing. Well, I mean, we were talking about fusions yesterday, so philosophers like just making new things out of other stuff, or that a sequence of contingencies is itself a single contingency, then why were you conjoining them in the beginning? What would that conjoined thing be? Proposition, maybe? Who knows? Okay. So suppose that each contingent truth has a ground that is among an infinite series of grounded truths. Each contingent has a ground that is among. Okay, so we're doing the plural stuff. Something somewhere in that group grounds something somewhere in the group of contingent stuff. So maybe it's a coherence theory of some sort. As just mentioned, a series of contingent truths needn't be a single thing, such as a set or conjunction of contingent truths. Still, we might wonder what grounds the series, and our wonder makes sense even if, perhaps especially if, talk of a series of truths is just shorthand for talk of some truths arranged serially. Yeah, why should the arrangement of the truths make any difference? Are truths connected to each other somehow and it matters? Different metaphysical problem. On the version of PSR we will consider, there must be a ground for any truth or truths. Here is the version of PSR we will consider. Any plurality of contingent truths has a full ground. Okay, do we get to understand what full ground means? No, we have not understood what full ground means. And what follows, I understand that grounding induces entailment. That is, if some facts F collectively ground some facts G, then necessarily if each fact among the F's obtain, then each fact among the G's obtain. So yeah, this is standard grounding stuff, really. We will state a version of the PSR using this conception of ground. Yeah, this is what's it called? Supervenience 2.0 in my mind, but not to be unfair to grounding, it's better than supervenience. But first, some definitions. Let us say that a plurality of truths are contingently true if and only if at least one of them is contingently true. That's again, one spoils the well. A plurality of truths are necessarily true if and only if each one of them is necessarily true. Yeah, so a contingent truth is one drop of contingency makes everything contingent. If it's a plurality is necessarily true, then it all has to be necessarily true, and each one of them so. We can now state the revised version of Van Inwagen's argument against the principle of sufficient reason. Assume that there is at least one contingent truth. Let C's collectively denote the contingent truths. Given our assumption that there is at least one contingent truth, there is at least one truth among the C's, and hence C's successfully plurally denote. Assumption that there is at least one contingent, there's at least one truth among the C's, hence C's successfully plurally denote. What? Like C's collectively sorry, I'm getting distracted or something. Assume that there's at least one contingent truth. Let the C's collectively denote the contingent truths. Okay, so we've got that conjunction of C's and that they denote the contingent truths. Given our assumption that there's at least one contingent truth, there's at least one truth among the C's, and one contingent truth among the C's, and then C's successfully plurally denote. Sorry, so those all denote the C's. So C's have sufficient reason R's. R's might be a plurality of many truths, or it might be a single truth. Our argument is neutral with respect to this. Either way, though, R's are either contingent or necessary. If R's are necessary, then C's are necessary, since grounding induces entailment. What if R's are contingent? R's cannot be totally disjoint from C's, for in that case R's would be necessary rather than contingent. So either R's are just C's or R's overlap C's, that is, there's at least one truth among the R's as also among the C's. If R's are just C's, well, I gotta run, and I'll be back in a minute.